But in the 70s also, I was assigned um, by the New Grove Dictionary, which was being created, the standard English language music dictionary. Well, I was asked by the editor, Stanley Sadie, if I would write for them, and asked, what would you like to do for us? Um, I was lucky. Some people sort of thought that I was fairly capable, and Stanley was one of them. So I said, well, you're not going to let me write about Bach. I know that, but I'd love to write. I'd like to write about Schütz. I'd like to do the Schütz article. And I loved Schütz. I loved that music from very early. So um, I said, I'll do that. They agreed. So one of the things that I figured I had to do when I was working on this article was really do the work list, and these were a very important part of Grove, and and which meant looking at just all of the sources of the music, every original printed edition, every manuscript that survived, which I did actually in the space of 3 or 4 years, maybe. And of course, when I was looking at them, I was also looking at them with a performer's eye because I was interested in how you perform this music. So I was, keeping my eyes open for clues on performance. And this is where I got what was the most important piece of information. What I discovered with Schütz was that that singers sang not from vocal scores as they do today, sort of like all four voice parts of a normal four voice texture with a piano reduction. They sang from individual parts, the way orchestral musicians, chamber musicians still do. So if you have a clarinetist playing from a part, you had a soprano reading and singing from a part. And it was clear that each singer got his own copy of the music. So each soprano got one soprano part, each tenor got one tenor part. There's really no question about it. It was very simple, black and white. In fact, today, normally two singers sing for their own copies of the music. There had been a legend, I can really call it a legend, that with Bach, singers shared their music. They read three of them reading from the same music. But so I found this with Schütz, and it was very clear. And of course, the consequences were very obvious. If you have only one copy of a part, there's only one singer. So if you have four parts, let's say one soprano, one alto, one tenor, one bass, the performance is done by four singers, not a modern choir. Obviously, you have to be able to show the relationship, the proportion of singer to part. You have to show that, there weren't many parts that are now lost, etc., etc. But if those things in here, that's what you have. And at the time, of course, I remember thinking, well, that's great. I started looking around the 17th century, same with Monteverdi, same with Buxtehude, blah, 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 blah. And of course, I'm thinking, yes, but when did it change? When did it become what Bach did? When did you have the more people and people sharing their music that you had with Bach? Because I believed it. That's what I was trained to believe. And I still remember that on one afternoon in 1978, see, that I really can still recall, I'm sitting in the Harvard Music Library, which had a special collection of microfilms, a huge collection of microfilms of old manuscripts, printed editions, etc. And they had all of the Bach materials there, all of Bach's manuscripts, etc. I remember rolling through a reel of Bach parts to cantatas, that is, the original parts from which his musicians performed. So not his scores, but, violin one, tenor, organ continua, etc. And I'm reading through this, and I come to one cantata. I can even remember that. It's Die Himmel erzählen die Ehre Gottes. It's BWV 76. And I'm starting to look through it, and I come to the vocal parts, and I see exactly something that I had seen with Schütz. Exactly the same thing. And I said, if this is true, then it's different with Bach, and that the whole thing is different. And at that point, though, I knew that I had to look systematically at all of the parts, which I did over the next 2 years.